Awesome, and thank you, Daryl. And welcome everybody. Yeah, this is going to be fun. So I'm just going to speak for a couple of minutes here and just kind of also introduce Danielle. And it's interesting. What's fascinating about this business is that the kind of people who are interested and attracted to it and who come into it, because it's truly from all walks of life. And I think I've told the story of how Henry and I ran into each other, completely random, but obviously, the universe conspired that that was meant to be. And and the same thing really happened here with Danielle. And I remember the first time we were doing a seminar in Las Vegas, and one of our clients who's been with us for a long time and has done a lot of great input into the site said, "Hey, do you mind if I bring my daughter to the Vegas live event?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." I mean, I thought in the back of my mind, it's like I didn't know, if she was 10 or what. But I'm like, at some point, I'd like to teach my kids how to trade. So I'm like, yeah, bring her along. And um, and so Danielle came to the class, and she had just started trading. And I remember I brought her up on stage, and she did a live trade. And I was like, "All right, you never know when someone's just new to it. It's like, all right, you're asking the right questions, you're facing your fears head on, and all this kind of stuff, and that's great." And then she came to the next one the following year. And at that point, she'd really picked up a lot of stuff. And this was in Austin. And afterwards, we were having kind of like the cocktail reception. And we're, sitting there having a drink. I said, Danielle, if you like this and you're looking for something to do, I mean, we can find something for you to do. She's like, cool. And I have to say, the interesting thing in watching her over the years is that the most common thing I hear from people is that they'll come to our site and say, "Okay, this is great, but I am overwhelmed. John, you're saying this, Henry's saying this, Bruce is saying this, Carolyn's doing this, David's doing this. You guys are doing different things. Who do I follow?" And what was great is Danielle's the first person I've seen, and she has these like super strong, analytical mind. And it was the first person I've seen who went through and systematically, essentially dissected what each of us do. Like I joke that she can actually explain what I do better than that I can explain it. And then she took the pieces of that worked best for her and found consistency in that. And so I just think it's interesting for those of you that are newer, or if you've been trying this for a while and you're kind of frustrated and it's like, okay, why can't I get consistent? Danielle's kind of figured that out. She's kind of taken all the pieces of the puzzle, all the kind of the ingredients in the soup, and found something that worked for her after trying everything and having access to all of us and grilling us with all these questions. And so it's been pretty awesome to see. And so, and now at this point, obviously for those of you who are in the room, you've seen Danielle, and what she's going to do tonight is just talk a little bit about her story. You guys have seen her in the room and in the sessions where she kind of talks about some of her strategy, but she's going to focus on her story and essentially just how for people that are interested in kind of like, great, I want to learn everything you learned over the last 3 years. And she's going to talk about a workshop she's going to do on Saturday to that effect. So I think it's going to be awesome. And Danielle, without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to you. And as I was saying earlier in the room, we're just going to give you a glass of Bordeaux and turn you loose, and sit back and enjoy the show.
Wow, thank you, JC. That was an awesome intro. Can you all hear me okay? Good evening. Thank you so much for coming to spend your evening with us tonight. Yeah, it's a pretty crazy story how everything happened. I mean, I'm going to tell a big part of the story, and it really did come down to that moment where we were sitting at the bar, and he's like, I want to hire you, but I'm not exactly sure for what. And that really goes into a lot of the story. So I'm going to get to that. But yeah. But first, I'm going to go ahead and go over, first, I'm going to go over just the very basics of why I got into options trading. If you're not already trading options, here are some reasons why it would be great to get into that. And for those of you who already know me and know how I trade and you're in the trading room with me every day, you're going to recognize some of these setups, but the goal is at the end of this that you have a concise idea of what my strategy is. And then, if you want to dive deeper into that, at that point, there's going to be that opportunity. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So this is one of the things that I love to use in the live webinars that I do at Simpler. And I really like to break things down for traders. And, a lot of people ask me, hey, why are you a trader? Trading is just such a crazy thing. How do you really break it down to make it easy to understand? Well, it's very, very simple. What you need in any single trade, really just 5 components, okay? And each one of those components, that is what goes into these are the factors that go into all of our trades. So, first of all, you need to learn how to recognize a setup. So, what is a setup? When I'm looking at a chart, what can I see on that chart to know that this is something that I want to trade? After that, when you know that you have a setup, what are you going to do? What kind of strategy are you going to do? Are you going to trade that with options? Are you going to trade it with stock, futures? Personally, I focus mainly on options. I do a little bit of futures as well, but as far as the scope of this class, we're going to focus on options. So the next thing is, all right, you have a setup, you have a strategy. Now, how are you going to get into that? The entry is something that I focus on very, very closely. So I always want to make sure that I get the best entry that I can because of this factor right here, the risk management factor. So if you're like me and you have a small account, you can't really afford to have your entry too far away from your stop point. So for me, identifying an entry and identifying a stop point are very critical. So I use a lot of very technical levels to identify both of these factors. And, risk management, that's very, very, very important. It's always risk first, profit second. So after that, you need to know how do you get out of your trade and where. So this is a key part. The profit, that's where you're going to make your money. So this is a very, very critical part of your trade, each and every trade that you do. So for those of you who don't trade options, why trade options? So first of all, a large part of my journey has involved learning and understanding options. And let me tell you that this was not something that was easy for me in the beginning. It did not come natural to me. I have no formal training in math or econ. My college degree was actually in international law and human rights, and I worked as a teacher for multiple years. So, it was something that did not come easy to me, but it is something you absolutely can learn. So, this is my favorite part. When they're used correctly, they provide a fixed amount of risk, high probability of reward, and the safe use of leverage. So, this is the key part that we're looking at with options, the leverage that we can get when we're trading options versus stock. Really, when I say that, you're comparing that to just trading stock. Of course, when used incorrectly, they can destroy an account. And that's why it's absolutely critical to have the proper training to know how to use it correctly versus incorrectly. And then, once I got into trading and the more classes of John's that I took, it became very clear to me that I absolutely loved options. And one of the main reasons is because you're able to do this when you have a limited amount of capital. Somebody like me, when you have a $20,000 account, you're not really going to be able to make a whole lot of money trading stock. Sure, you can, but options really give you the ability to make money in this type of situation, even with a $5,000 or $10,000 account as well. So, and right here, this is actually my favorite reason. So you can do it in your pajamas at home. That's my favorite reason. But here's the secret right here. It's limited risk, high reward, perfect timing. That can really give you that financial freedom that you're seeking. For me, I like to focus on the short-term aggressive trades with low capital risk, typically under about $1,000. But of course, with options, you can trade multiple contracts. So of course, if I'm position sizing for $500 or $1,000, you can do 5,000 or however much you like. But for me, with my account and my goals, that is typically what I stick with. So John did tell you a little bit about me, but I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. So now, these days, I am I'm a technical analyst and I'm also the new trader specialist here at Simpler Trading. So I really focus on the beginner and intermediate traders that we have. And the reason for that being is because I used to be a beginner. When I came to Simpler, I honestly didn't know anything about the stock market. And one of the pitches that I gave to John, and I never intended for it to turn into a job, but I told him, I was like, John, it's really difficult as a beginner to come to Simpler and to understand everything that's going on because you guys are at such a high level and you guys have been doing this for so long, and there are little things that I don't get. And so when I was telling him this, I had been trading for about 2 years, right? So I told him, I was like, I didn't understand your text alerts. I was so confused. And could you write up a document on just what is assignment? That would have helped me. And he said, okay, Danielle, why don't you do that for me? And we'll see how it goes. So that's how it started. So I started writing stuff like that for John. I was like, this is really going to help people. And he decided it was good and he liked it. So I ended up working here. But now that's really my focus. I work with beginner, intermediate traders, and then I also have regular live trading sessions in the Simpler Trading chat room. So that's a lot of fun. And then I do some after hours webinars as well. But this is my favorite quote because, the expert in anything was once a beginner. And, these are just a couple things. I'm going to get into my story a little bit just so you know a little bit about me. But why should you listen to me? I mean, primarily because, I'll be the first person to admit I was a very unlikely candidate to become a consistent trader. There was no way I was going to give up. But this was something that John said to me when I came to one of the mentorships when I was really struggling. And this is going to be the focus of my presentation. So, when you're an options trader, you are coming into a profession where you are trading with true professionals. You can jump into this, you can fund an account, you can do it tomorrow. You're going up against professionals. That is inherently hard. First, you are going to lose money. That's how you learn. But what we're here to do is to shorten this learning curve for you. The second part of that, you figure out through your experience, through your education, how you stop losing money. And then at this point, that is where you really can make some money. So when I go through my slides, I'm gonna format it just like that. So but here's how it began. I never ever thought I would become a trader. After I graduated from college, I actually went down to Costa Rica. I was teaching elementary school. Here's me with my 6th grade class. It was so much fun. I loved it. I made $545 a month. I thought I was saving the world. It was absolutely amazing. I rode my bike to work every day. Here are my 2 dogs. This was Layla and Rhodey. I had a basket on the front for the little one. So my sister and I going to a waterfall in Costa Rica, and that was the view off my back porch. So I absolutely loved it. I didn't care about money. I didn't care about money, but things change. So at that time when I was down there, I fell in love and I was engaged and I was going to be married. And I thought everything was great. But then that's when it all changed. My son's father decided he would rather be out at the bar every night than actually have a family, which, that's fine. That's his choice. But in that, I decided to become a single mother and take care of my son on his own. So at that point, that was the point where I decided, oh my gosh, I need to do something else. I need to figure out a way to support myself and my son. How am I going to do that? And of course, this all happened right when I was giving birth. So it was a very crazy time, but that was how I got into options trading. So this is the backstory to why I wanted financial freedom, but what's yours? Maybe you want to retire, maybe you lost a job, maybe you're getting divorced, maybe you want to get divorced, maybe you just want extra money on the side. For me, my catalyst was wanting to take care of my child, which was why I was so dedicated to doing this. But maybe for you, it's something else. I did not know where to turn. I never ever expected that I would become an options trader. But my dad, he had been following John and Henry for several years, and he was just at he had just come back from a mentorship with John, actually. And so I'm sitting there homeless, crying to my dad. Literally, I'm like, I have 2 suitcases full of clothing and nothing else. My job, everything is kaput at this point, because I had to move back home. And he told me, I know what you can do. You can watch John Carter. You can take this class with me. You can learn how to trade options. You can work from home. You can take care of your son. And, that's what you can do. So that's what I did. You're always one decision away from a totally different life. When I say I was a beginner, I completely mean it. I didn't know anything about the market. So I decided to stay home and learn about options trading, and that's what I did. So 5 years later, how do I trade? Again, 5 years later, all this last 5 years, I have spent every minute of my life, it seems like, working on trading. At this point, what do I do? It's all about creating a very concise watch list with immense research, using the trading tools available to me, looking at the chart and seeing the price action. I'm a very strict technical analyst at this point, and I like to trade that with precision. So I've really taken a mix of the simpler trading strategies from all of our experts with years of expertise and combine that into a strategy that is cost effective for people like myself with small accounts. Yeah, college payments, right? So TD Ameritrade, this is a trade that I've been in and out of the past 2 weeks or so. When I look at this chart, when I saw it, the first thing, and this is one of my things I like to say in the trading room, cha-ching, when I just know that it's a good one. When I saw it, all I saw was cha-ching. Okay, why? So let's get into the strategy now. Flash forward to the profits in TD Ameritrade. So these are the type of trades. I wanted to show you guys the type of trades that I do because they are a little bit different than everybody else. Just slightly different. But really what I like to do is I like to focus on high probability trending charts that also give me the ability to invest lower amounts of money. So as you can see with this one, it was about $225 a contract. And at the end of the day, I only invested about $765, but ended up making, quite a bit on that money, over 100%. So those are the type of trades that I like to do with solid risk to reward situations. This, to me, at this point, is all about picking out high probability technical charts. Kramer is one of the people that I do really enjoy listening to. And, I really like this inspirational quote that he posted on Twitter the other day. Don't listen to the naysayers. You can do it. We are completely capable of picking out winning stocks and taking control of our financial destiny, because it is absolutely possible to learn. And that is what I do, and that's what I want to teach you. So we all know that, January was a really solid month in the market. And trading in January was an awesome month for me, but that same setup that I showed you on TD Ameritrade, that is the same thing that I do over and over and over again. BABA, XLB, THO. See, that one was just getting started at that point. Red Hat, PHM. Same setup over and over again. And that allowed me in January to take my $15,000 account and run that up to 25K within the first 3 weeks of the month. So that was pretty awesome. I've come really a long way. And just amazing that I get to share it with you guys today. So anyways, how is this possible? We want to look at the leverage of options. We need a technical rule-based strategy. If you're anything like me, you don't have 30 years of experience like people like John and Raghee and Henry, like they just know, they have intuition. Again, like Henry has a very technically based formula, and I've learned so much from him, and a lot of my strategy is from him as well. But especially for people who are new, you really need to focus on the technical rule-based strategy. So that is really what I focus on. The question is, how do you learn it? How do you apply it? When is the next January of 2018 going to come? Obviously, there's not going to be another January 2018, but there are going to be other times in the market that are like this. During January, everything was in alignment. Everything was perfect. I looked at these charts and I just said, oh my gosh, this is time. You know, Henry and I in the trading room were like, this is the time right now. We are all in. These trades, load up. We need to be long. And we knew that. And yeah, exactly. Then came February. So we need to be able to recognize these moments in time so we can jump on them when it happens again. So partly, and you know, of course, right after I finished this slide, the news came out about the guy quitting. And we'll definitely address that in the trading room tomorrow. And this could be the signal that's coming through. But the same signal that I saw in January are the same signals that I'm seeing now. So this is one of our primary indicators, the squeeze. This is telling us that there are big moves in the market setting up. They're about to happen. So you have the S&Ps on a daily chart, the Dow futures on a daily chart, the Russell futures on a daily chart. All three of these major indexes are telling us right now that there are going to be major moves. It could be up, it could be down. To me, it does not matter. To me, it doesn't matter. You can trade it up or down either way. The January example was, of course, up, but these directional strategies, they work in an up or a down market. So either way, I'm going to be ready for them. Yeah, the Dow futures are down 400 points plus this evening. So this very well could be the beginning of a down signal, which is fine. We can trade that to the downside. But the point is that you have to recognize the setups and know how to trade them. So as far as my road to becoming a trader, and I don't want to get too much into the story, but this does go into my strategy because you can see, in the beginning, I was working at home with my son. I had him literally climbing on top of me all the time. But in the very beginning, this honestly, it goes into my strategy because I primarily focused on John. I first started learning everything John had to say. I worked freelance photography and I took my laptop with me everywhere and I listened to John's sessions. John taught me all about the squeeze and the different setups that I wanted to trade. And then after that, I incorporated Henry's work. Henry brings an amazing technical aspect that is so much more on a conservative level, which is exactly what I needed. And he gave me that rule set that I needed to add to the strategy that I had already learned. So that was the first part of my strategy. And of course, I'm trying to do all this while doing crafts and paint and all this stuff with my kid, which was awesome. But I was not ready to give up. at this point, things were still hard for me. I was about 2 years in, if you can relate to that at all. I don't know how long you guys have been trading, but 2 years into my trading journey, it was definitely difficult. So I was really struggling. It was not easy for me. And so I studied even harder. At this point, I went ahead and added Fibonacci. So Fibonacci is key, key, key. Um, I attended a couple of John's classes. I learned about psychology, and then I introduced Fibonacci to my work. That gave me a very clear rule set that I was able to time entries and exits. And this all goes into the strategy that I'm going to get into. But at this point, I had John's strategy, Henry's technicals, Carolyn's levels, and then the final piece of the puzzle was Neil, Raghee, David Starr. And that goes into Bruce as well, because I started using David Starr's tools, the Ready, Aim, Fire, which is why my class is called Ready, Aim, Freedom. But I really started to, at this point, I added the overall market analysis that really came from Neil and Raghee. This was the final key for me. And at this point, I really started making money. So here's a picture for me. This is crazy that I even found this, but this is actually a picture of me when I was taking John's class. John, Henry, and Carolyn taught this class on the Ready, Aim, Fire, and now I am sitting here teaching a class with the Ready, Aim, Fire. So it's kind of crazy, but that's how I learned, with Leo climbing all over me, because that's how we did things. But yeah, I mean, this really just goes into the backstory of how everything came together. So John always said, you don't need to know everything about the markets to make money. You just need one setup that works a high percentage of the time, and you need to execute it. And I know that I lived it. I know that's true because I lived it. So now I am here talking to all of you guys today. All of that went into my setup, which is what I call now the 5-star setup. So John talks a lot about, and this is something that he would say during his classes. He would say, this trade, it gets 3 stars, so I'm only gonna put 2.5% of my account. I'm sorry, 2.5% of my account. This one is 4 stars, and so I'm actually gonna put 5% of my account in this trade. And when you finally get a 5-star setup, that is when you're loading it up, okay? And I don't ever recommend anybody doing 10% unless you really know what you're doing. But this is when you load up. And this was something that really resonated with me. So I came up with my own confluence of a 5-star setup. So to me, what is a 5-star setup? I have a small account. I can only do a limited amount of trades per week. Because you have a certain amount of capital that you can put to risk. So you need to pick the best ones. And that's the entire point of everything that I'm trying to do. I want to scour the market, and I want to find the absolute best setups, and then only trade. Let's say you only pick 5 trades in an entire week. Those are the ones that I want, and they have to be a 5-star setup. So what qualifies it to be a 5-star setup? It absolutely has to have a solid trend. How do we qualify a solid trend? That's very key to the strategy. It has to be a solid trend. When you're a more experienced trader, you can absolutely do counter trend setups. But when you're really just looking for the highest probability plays, the best thing to do is to stick with the trend. The next thing that is really key is you want to be on the right side of Fibonacci analysis. So That in combination with the trend, it's sort of similar, but also when you combine the two, it makes it even more powerful. It's easier, number one, to follow the trend. Number two, a Fibonacci analysis setup is high probability in and of itself. So even if you just traded this, it's high probability. But when you add this, 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 and this, it's even higher probability. Okay? So that's the idea behind that. Again, the high probability moment in time, we need to know how to recognize that. How do we do that? That's with the squeeze. So we need to know how to recognize the squeeze, how to find a squeeze, and then which squeeze is the best one to be trading. So you need, that's the third factor. And again, a squeeze in and of itself, just by itself, has about a 75% probability of success. Fib analysis is very high probability. Trend following is high probability. So when you add this, this, and this together, this is a combination of the strategies that come from my mentors that are adding together the highest probability strategies that they have. I can definitely go into the squeeze on. I think I have on not 2 slides. I'll go into the squeeze. So Fibonacci analysis is going to give you high probability moments in time where you have a solid setup, a buy setup or a sell setup. It doesn't matter either way. But if you combine the fib with the trend with the squeeze, it's just even higher probability. So on top of that, when you have this high probability setup, you need to have a key entry point. For me, I like to enter near the mean. So you got to enter near the mean because stocks are always reverting to the mean. So when you have your entry point near the mean, that's going to give you a much more solid entry point than if you're chasing or anything like that. And then this is really the kicker. This is where you get the 5th star. So I do a lot of 4 stars, but the 5 stars are the best. Those are the ones where it's like, okay, this is really worth the risk. And that's going to be an additional factor. For example, when you have, like I showed you on the S&P, Russell, and Dow charts. So those three charts right now are setting up for a big move. So if we can then align, for example, if we take Microsoft that's in the NASDAQ, or if we take Boeing that's in the Dow, if we do some aligning like that and we say, and this is just an example, I don't have a setup in Boeing right now, but if I say, okay, the Dow is setting up for a big move, so is Boeing, this is something that would give me the additional oomph to give me a larger size position. So yes, Tim, extensions after a breakout and retracements on reversal. Yes. So as far as Fibonacci analysis goes, I'm going to use and teach Fibonacci analysis as far as projecting targets for entries with these setups. Yes, and we do typically use the 21 EMA for the mean on the daily. So it's these combination of factors that came from learning through my various mentors that give me the 5-star setup. And that is where I get the majority of the growth for my account. Yes, this webinar is live, Ray. So how do you go about finding a 5-star setup? So you have to think of it like this. There are thousands upon thousands of stocks that you can buy, right? There's crazy everywhere. So where do you start? It's completely scary, right? But that is what I'm here to do, to help you take that and then whittle it down. So this is where logic comes into play, and that's coupled with technical analysis, and we play that through options. So there's a couple different ways, and there's a couple different watch lists that I use to find my trades. I really like the IBD list, Investors Business Daily list. And I also really like the sector spiders. But you cannot just trade anything on that list. You have to start with that list and narrow it down through technical analysis to figure out which charts you should trade. So that is the goal here. So in this example, I'm going to start with a sector, okay? So if you think of the S&Ps, if you think of the S&Ps, let's just break that down. There are going to be varying sectors within the S&Ps. And this is something that all of us do in the trading room, but I want to take this opportunity and this class to teach you how to do it yourself. So we have the S&Ps. All right, now we need to look at the sectors within the S&Ps, and we need to narrow that down to say 3 sectors that are about to move. So maybe it's these 3, maybe it's this one. Last year, the majority of those profits that I got in January, a huge amount of those were because I was trading XLP stocks. I traded Monster, Costco, couple other ones. There was a huge move in XLP. A lot of them actually came from the financials. I love trading the financials. JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, American Express. But of course, we want to really focus on a specific sector when it's moving. So you need to be able to recognize when it's moving. Pete wants to know, are these for day trading or can you swing trade with this strategy? So with a strategy, you should be able to use it on any time frame as long as you can learn how to look at a chart and technically analyze it. You should be able to use that on any time frame. For me, I primarily swing trade, so I use a daily chart, 195, 78-minute chart, but I also do day trade from time to time, but primarily day trade. And then Sunny wants to know, will you teach us Fib? Yes, I am going to teach you how to, during the course, I am going to teach how to come up with extension targets for profit targets. Thank you. I am going to teach you how to come up with the extensions for profit targets, which is using Fibonacci extensions. And then we're also going to go over a little bit of symmetry as well. All right, so then let's narrow it down. We start with the S&P, okay? Last year, I really like to focus on the industrial sector. And, you know, this is something that Henry and I collaborate a lot in the trading room on as well. So, you know, Henry will take something like Boeing and completely do an awesome job trading that. And then I'll take something like small, like Honeywell or Deere, where these options are like $2 or $3, and I'm going to focus on those. So this is just one way that I like to narrow down the stocks that I'm trading. Focus on the S&Ps, narrow it down to one of the strongest sectors. It just makes sense. If you're trying to make money trading directional options, you need to focus on an area in the market that's outperforming the market. So here's a diagram showing the industrial sector, and this industrial sector is outperforming the overall market by quite it's pretty significant. So that is how I really am able to narrow down my focus. And that's also how I'm able to find those 5-star trades. So how do I get from the sector spider list to this? So here's one of my Honeywell trades. And again, you know, this is a option that only cost me $3.50, and I end up selling it for double, for $7. And this option was even cheaper, actually, $2.22, ended up selling it for $5. So through that top-down analysis, I'm able to identify the sector, identify the individual stock, and then look for a 5-star setup that I can actually trade. So like this one here is a squeeze. So somebody was asking about a squeeze. So you see these red dots right here? That is telling us that the market is about to release some pressure. So this is one of my favorite trading tools. Absolutely love it. And you can see that at this moment in time, market's trading higher. This moment in time, market's trading higher. In this instance, this was the trade that I took. So I had a confluence of symmetry right here. These levels are symmetry. That's going to be Fibonacci analysis. I had a confluence of the squeeze. I had a trigger with the ready aim fire, and Honeywell in this instance ended up trading up to about 160. So this was the screenshot that I took before the trade, actually followed through. But so how do you measure symmetry? That's something that I'm going to be going into in detail and teaching in the class. But basically all that you want to do is you want to look at the personality of the stock. So you need to look at the pullbacks within the uptrend and figure out, okay, is this normal that this pulled back this far? And once you determine, yes, that is normal that it pulled back this far, that gives you a high probability buy point for an entry. And once you start to spot them, they're really everywhere. That's what I love about the setup, is that you can really find them anywhere. This is an example of multiple 5-star setups that I traded with American Express last year. So American Express is in the finance sector, and this one I was able to trade it multiple times every time I got a signal, over and over, in a rinse and repeat manner. All right, so when you're looking at a sector, do you look at the sector's performance over a week, a month, 6 months, or other? Chaikin does a nice job of giving a sector performance, but not sure what time frame to base my decision on. So typically I'm looking at about 3 to 6 months. I really like Chaikin a lot, actually. I really like Chaikin a lot, but that really goes into my trend following strategy. So with my strategy, I need to be able to recognize, okay, is this trending right now? Is it not? And then from that point, I go through my trend checklist. And if it fits the rules, then I'll stick with it. For right now, it's a little bit tricky after the correction. But there are several sectors that are setting up in this moment in time, especially energy. Energy is not my favorite because it's counter trend, but it is setting up for a buy right now. So XLI and XLY also are looking pretty good. And then I always like trading finance because it's a pretty good trending one. But basically this is a squeeze right here, those red dots. It's telling you, hey, this is about to move. So with my strategy, I'm using a combination of the squeeze, the trend, the entry trigger, fib analysis, and then one additional factor. So I know the struggle. I have struggled so hard. It was extremely hard for me to learn options trading, but I have turned the corner and it's been absolutely amazing. So, and now I'm in this position where I'm able to work with so many different traders every single day. I do webinars. I do the trading room, and I absolutely love it. So I know the challenges, and I have been there. I have survived it, which I'm sometimes it's shocking to me, but I have survived it, and I love nothing more than coming to work and trading every single day. So, it's seriously, it's impossible for me to show you everything that I have learned, in 1 hour. And so this is where the class comes in. So if you are interested in learning more from me and taking a class from me, this is the opportunity. This is the first class that I'm going to be doing for a 4-hour period. I'm so excited to do it. And this is everything that I'm going to include. So I'm going to include the technical analysis. I want to teach people how to identify high probability setups. I want to show you, hey, if you look at a chart, I want you to know, is this a good play or is it not? I want you to understand how that I've adapted some of these setups. Yes, I am going to include Fibonacci. I'm going to include my watch list, my screening process, and, you know, we need to work on the checklist. So I'm going to teach you, how do you recognize the best type of squeeze? There are squeezes all over the place. Number one, how do you find a squeeze? Number two, how do you know if it's a good squeeze to play? Number three, okay, how do we trade that? So those are the three things we're absolutely going to cover in my course. And here's going to be my trade selection checklist. So you're going to know exactly how I trade my 5-star setups. And a huge part of this is how to identify entries, exits, targets, and stops without guesswork. Everything that I do is very methodical and technical, and that is how I'm going to bring it to you with a very strict rule set. Yeah. Wow, I'm so happy all you guys are appreciating this right now. I can see your comments. So you can't see the comments because of the webinar format, but I can see your comments. I'm trying so hard to answer all of them. These are the 3 pricing packages that we have. The link, if you would like to go to the website to learn about each package, is right here. You cannot click on it because this is on a PowerPoint, but if you type that into your browser, you can go ahead and go to that page. I'll go ahead and type it in for you. I'll type it in for you up here above so that you can go ahead and check it out. Okay, so I'm just going through a bunch of the questions. Do I use the TTM squeeze from Thinkorswim, or is it your custom indicator? So I'm using the one from Thinkorswim. Hey, JC, nice to see you back.
Hey, Danielle. So first of all, just, I mean, awesome job just kind of going through this. And as you guys know, Danielle's never kind of put together something like this before. And I think what's great about this and kind of a unique opportunity is that before, when we've done classes, like if I've done a class or Bruce has done a class, you know, what's happened is, like in that case, it's like, you know, we'd been already doing this for like 20 years. And so when you get to that point where it's like you don't really remember what it was like at the beginning, you're just kind of diving into these, like, you know, intermediate and advanced strategies with the assumption that everybody kind of knows, you know, where you're coming from. And what's really unique about Danielle is that, you know, it wasn't that long ago where she was kind of right there in the middle of it. And instead of doing a trial by fire and instead of trying to learn it by herself every day, she would sit there, and more than anyone I've ever seen, just willingness to do the work and fail forward and really dissect, you know, the stuff that I was doing, dissect the stuff that Henry was doing, dissect the stuff that Carolyn was doing, and really through like thorough analysis and checklists say, you know what, there's a lot of good stuff here, but I'm looking for the stuff that I can use with a small account and do consistency, not be confused, and, you know, be able to kind of, you know, be able to generate income here. And that's the idea. It's like, look, I'm not, you know, I don't want to go get a job and work 12 hours a day and get daycare if I can figure out a way to create income from trading. And to do that, she realized that she had to have a very methodical plan that was fail-safe, and that's the end result of all this. So I think this is awesome. I think it's gonna be fantastic. And if it's one of those things where you're just like, oh, okay, this sounds great, I'm not really sure about all these different packages, I would just say do the 297 strategy class, because she's gonna go through and just kind of teach you everything that she's learned. From there, there's some interesting things that you could do and say, well, cool, okay, now I'd like to try some live trading with you. Okay, great. The 697 class will do some live trading. And I would say, like, the live trading, that's kind of like if you spend the weekend reading a book on how to play golf. You've ever, really played golf before, then on Monday when you go to the first tee, it's not going to be very good. But, in this case, if you like, you spend time reading the book, in this case, learning the strategies, and then spending 2 days, almost like with a golf coach who's sitting there kind of, telling you about your swing, you come out of that just so much better. So those are the main things. The indicators that she has are fairly straightforward. I think most of you have the squeeze. If you don't, we'll make, there's going to be arrangements made for that to at least get it to you. If you're looking at more of the elite part, that's where she has a little, she loves that RAF indicator, which is great.
I love the RAF.
Yeah, yeah, it's like it was actually a big aha moment for her when that one came online. Now, if you're not sure about it, don't worry about it. Just do the strategy class. She'll also mention some other things that you could do in lieu of the RAF. Okay, so that's kind of the main thing. And then I think that's the main stuff. I mean, Danielle's gonna hang around here and answer questions and things like that. But I'm super excited about this. I think this is really the first time that we've been able to do something like this, where someone who was a client, then went through all of our stuff and then got to the point where it's like, now this works for me. Dissected everything that we do and is going to kind of take that and lay out like, look, this is what worked for me. And I think it'll save a lot of other people a lot of time and frustration as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'm more than happy to stick around and answer questions. So let's see, I can see, will we get access to a video of the strategy class and repeat and study later? Absolutely. So everything that we do is recorded. If you purchase any of the packages and this webinar as well, it will be emailed to you if you'd like to watch it again. But if you purchase any of the packages, the recording will be emailed to you within a couple hours after the class. So if you click on the link, if you look at the top left-hand corner of your screen up there, you can see that it says simplertrading.com/freedom. If you click on that link, you're able to get to this page. So that will enable you to go through, look at all the packages. The strategy class is this Saturday, March 10th from noon to 4. And the live trading is going to be next Monday and Tuesday from 11 to 3. So basically that will give you about 8 hours of live trading with me. And during those during the strategy class, I'm going to have a very thorough PowerPoint where I want to teach you everything that has to do with this strategy. And then during those live trading hours, we are then able to go through and implement that. So we're going to go through the scans that I have built. We're going to go through the watch list that I have built. We're going to go through the varying charts. And I want to be able to teach you at the end of this. I want you to look at a chart and I want you to say, hey, this is a high probability setup and I know I can spend my money on this trade. And that is the goal of this. So, I want to just create a shortcut because I know how much I struggled and I really do think that all these tips put together in one place will be helpful. Do I use the voodoo lines in my technical analysis? I do use them sometimes, but I do prefer Fibonacci a little bit better. I use Thinkorswim. What is the indicator on the candles that make them blue and red? Those are going to be John's 10x bars. So I see a lot of questions about different credits that people have and different situations with their accounts. All of those questions, they need to be directed to customer support. So if you have a question about your specific account, what you've bought, what you haven't bought, please contact support@simplertrading.com or our phone number. Can we post our phone number on here? Where is it? Thank you, Randy. Yeah, we can I get the phone number up here somewhere, somebody? D. So
hey, Danielle, right. I did see one. Yeah. I did see one question there too, just regarding the master class. So a couple of people were asking, okay, what is that? What's the difference?
Oh,
and if
great.
you could scroll down just a touch, there we go. And so what that does is that the March mentorship live stream. So just so you guys know, we're going to be doing a live event in Austin at the end of March. The live event is almost sold out. There's like a couple of spots left for that. So we're now opening it up for people that would like to participate online. It's a 3-day event. We're going to be doing live trading, plus just talking through a lot of different strategies on that Sunday. Plus, we're going to have some guest speakers, such as a sports psychologist to teach mental toughness and things like that too. You're able, if you would like to attend that, you're actually able to get that at a discount. We're going to release it at $997. The way it's priced with this package is it's only $800. Now, if you already own that Ready, Aim, Fire indicator, you'll see a little button, little link below it says already own the indicator. Well, guess what? You could just get a, I believe it's a $200 or $300 store coupon that you could utilize instead. So that's for those of you that are like, man, I didn't know you guys had a live event and it's going to be broadcast online. That's great. If you combine it with this package, you're going to actually be able to get that at a cheaper price than when we release it in general. So that was kind of the main thing there. And let's see here. And then go for it, Danielle, if there's other questions you see. That was one I saw.
Oh, yeah, of course. Thank you, John. So people are asking about Fib. I definitely am going to go over Fibonacci extensions because it's very vital to, when you're trading with a squeeze, you absolutely need to do, when you're trading with a squeeze, you absolutely need to know how to draw Fibonacci extensions for your profit targets. So I'm absolutely going to go over that. I also am going to do a little bit of symmetry. I'm not going to do the complete cluster that Carolyn does, but with my strategy using symmetry and then also using Fibonacci extensions, very vital and very, very important. And it's one of the main things that really improved my trading. So Shell wants to know, will you be going over debit and credit spreads and how to determine profits? So primarily in this class, we're going to be focusing on long options, long calls, and long puts. I will add a little bit of debit spreads in there to make the risk a little bit lower. Not going to focus on credit spreads in this class in particular, but I'm happy to talk about it during live trading. I just want to make sure that I have a specific focus and people make sure that they know the strategy behind the trading of the long option. So that is our primary focus. What moving averages are you using on your respective charts? So on my daily chart, well, okay, so first of all, I use a daily 195, 78-minute charts for my swing trading. And then as far as my moving averages go on the daily chart, I'm using an 8-period exponential, 21 exponential, 34 exponential, 50, and 200 simple. Is this evening's webinar going to be available online? I missed most of it due to internet issues. Yeah, thank you. Daryl's answering that one for you. Do your products work with interactive brokers, trader workstation? Can somebody answer that for me? Because I'm not 100% sure about that. I'm pretty sure that we do. Okay, so as far as the strategy package that includes the Ready and Fire, so first of all, I wanted so badly for this to be an option for this class because I absolutely love the Ready and Fire. I use it for everything that I do. We decided to make 2 different options because the Ready and Fire has been with us for a couple years and a lot of people have it. So I didn't want to, the team didn't want to make this the only option. So for those of you who do already have the Ready and Fire, you have an option of live trading at a lower price point. And if you would like the Ready and Fire, you have that option as well. What I use for the Ready and Fire is it's really key as far as determining my entries and exits. So I do use the moving averages, I do use technical analysis, but the Ready and Fire has really enabled me to pinpoint my entries as far as these directional trades go. So yeah, the mentorship's going to be awesome. I'm so excited. As I have a special place in my heart for the mentorship since that was really how I met everyone, and that was what really inspired me to just become the trader that I am today. So, and I love them till this day. I love coming and I love meeting the traders that come to the mentorships now. I've only had one mentorship since I've actually officially worked here, but I'm really looking forward to the one at the end of March. I'm sorry, there's not a date on here, But oh no, it's right here. See? So this mentorship is March 25th to March 27th. Yeah, so the key with the ready and fire is you have to know which signals to ignore and which signals to address. That's really a key part of the strategy. Key part of the strategy. So are you going to help the member set of indicators? Yeah, absolutely. We can do that. How is the ready, aim, fire different than the squeeze? Let me go back to a slide.
Yeah, that's a good visual reference because it's kind of like
Yeah.
I always say the squeeze is telling you that it's fixing to move, and the RAF is telling you now's a good time to get in.
Yeah, right? Here, this is a better one. So the ready and fire is really a nuanced indicator, but the squeeze is telling you, so the squeeze are going to be these red dots right here. The squeeze is telling you, hey, there is a big move setting up and you need to be aware that something is going to happen here. It could be up, it could be down, and that's part of what we teach in the class is how to know which direction that's going to go. But me as primarily a trend follower, I'm looking to follow the trend. So the squeeze is going to tell you that something is setting up, but the ready and fire tells you to get in right now. So you can see that you have a squeeze, and this is a daily chart. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days where you're in a squeeze. Okay, so at what point are you going to get in this? Are you going to get in it for 9 days and sit there and wait? For me, I prefer not to do that. I have a small account. My account's about $20,000. So for me, I want to pinpoint my entry. So I use the ready aim fire, which is right there, to get in. So instead of sitting in the move for these 7 or 8 days, I wait until I get this signal and then I'm in. Boom. So that's what I like to use it for. If you're not able to take the course this Saturday, you can always just watch the recording later. Everything is recorded. Of course, the live trading is live. A lot of times I was not able to take the course that the day that it was taught, but if you could even watch the recording on Sunday and then do the live trading Monday, Tuesday, or if you didn't want to do the live trading at all, that's completely fine as well, even though I find it really helpful. But if you want to watch the recording later, absolutely you can do that. It'll be in your account forever. It'll be in your account forever. Anything you purchase with us is in your account. You can watch it at any point in time. That was actually how I learned John's strategies so well. I joke that I was like John's stalker because I really had no I had no option. It was like, hey, go back, be a waitress, be a teacher, suffer forever, or learn everything you can from John. So I took John's class and I literally listened to them over and over, printed off the slides, wrote notes. So I memorized, as much as I could about what he teaches.
Well, and Danielle, to your credit, one thing you're always good at is what I would call aggressive questioning. So it's just, it's one of those where
that's called torturing you.
It's always timing's always important, but it's like, just the idea of going like, if it was something like, if I had given like a throwaway answer, you're like, okay, no, what I need to know is X. It's like, okay. But your questions would actually force, clarity. And so, that's what I think is great about your approach. It's just like going like, no, I'm looking for specifics. It's like, okay, everybody that you've inquisition through that process, it also forces them to bring clarity to it, which is why I think your process works so well.
Yeah, and that's part of just really being new. So when you're really new and you really don't understand something at all, it's like, wait, John, so I'm not understanding what you mean. I remember when John pulled me up on the stage at the first mentorship I went to, I wanted to die. And he made me draw a Fibonacci extension in front of everyone. But let me tell you, I will never forget how to draw a Fib extension. So it was awesome. Good times. But so So yeah, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of questions here about the ready aim fire. So this one is the ready aim fire down here. This one is the squeeze. I know that the ready aim fire is confusing. There's a lot of different arrows here and everything, and that's why you really do have to learn how to use it. It takes a lot of time. Like I said, I took that first class with John in 2016. But what you're looking for is you're looking for the major buy. So this one's a major buy right here. It comes in right with the squeeze. That's your entry. Boom. So I can teach you how to use that indicator, how to identify those major buys, how to ignore the signals in the middle. Like these ones do not matter. These little green arrows, that is chop. It doesn't matter. But with any new tool, you have to learn how to read it and how to use it. The bars that you guys are asking about, yeah, I mean, the point is with the ready aim fire, it's for entries. It's for entries and it's for exits. This one is for identifying, hey, a move's about to happen. This one is get in right now, you're about to miss it. And then this, the symmetry is, okay, here's your entry point and your stop loss point. So that is the winning combination right there. And these bars, so that is something else that John created. These are the 10x bars. It's really just showing momentum and conviction buying. So yellow is going to be chop, green is going to be buying, chop, and then the green with the dots on them are momentum plus conviction buying. So I do use a combination of those things, but I can absolutely teach a directional trend following strategy with the simple moving averages, the squeeze, and honestly, I mean, I love the ready aim fire. If you don't feel comfortable getting that right now because you're not really familiar with it, that's totally fine. You can always upgrade later. But I don't know. I mean, I love it, so that's why I wanted it to be an option. So someone says, yes, thank you. RW, definitely email support if you're having an issue with your specific account. So that post-trade screenshot, I mean, the post-trade screenshot was, yeah, I mean, I could find it for you. But that was the profits that I showed you earlier. Typically what I do whenever I get into a trade, and this is part of the class that I'm going to go into, and this is part of what, you know, John and Henry have always taught me, is that you really need to screenshot all of your entries. So something that we do a lot here is we take screenshots of all our entries so that we can go back and say, yeah, this one was awesome, and this is how we learn, and this is how we get better, and all that. So if I go back to this Honeywell chart, so that was this move. So this was this daily squeeze right here. Daily squeeze, ready aim fire buy. Here's the earnings report. This ended up trading. My target was actually 160 and it overshot it and it went up to 165. So that was that trade. But yeah, I mean, what I'm doing with my trades is I really just try to only focus on the best, highest probability. I scour the entire freaking market to find those best 5 trades, trade those, you know, lower level of capital required, and focus on that. So that is the goal here. Yeah. Do I use Raghee's grab candles? So I have not been using those, but I love them. And, you know, I've been trying to incorporate some of Raghee's stuff more into what I'm doing because I absolutely love her. Most of her stuff that I do is primarily surrounding the sectors. So Raghee has taught me a lot about how to look at the varying sectors, identify which sector is moving, and then focus on that sector and trade it. And that is really the bread and butter of what I do, because once I can identify which sector is about to move, I'll trade 4 or 5 stocks within that sector so that I'm able to profit off the sector as well as the stocks within that sector. So that's primarily what I focus on from Raghee. And it's just that it's just taught me so much. So what is the difference between this course and the bullseye system? Well, I mean, it's different. Obviously it is similar because I am using the ready and fire, I'm using the squeeze, and I'm using things that Carolyn, Henry, and John have all taught me. But really, I am focusing more on picking out trades for a smaller account. And then also, I'm taking that and combining it with the sector analysis to not only use the bullseye strategy, but to also only use that strategy on the highest probability trending stocks.
Yeah, and one thing too about the bullseye class is that a big part of it was introducing the concept of that indicator versus, it's like, okay, this is how we use this tool versus it's essentially kind of a piece of the entire puzzle that you've put together.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a puzzle. It's definitely it's a crazy puzzle, crazy journey. I'm just so grateful to be here.
Well, I remember the one thing
trades
too.
I'm pretty good on, huh?
I remember too just the whole idea of just kind of, I remember, and I forgot, it's, of course, there's been so many interesting trading days over the last couple of years, but it was a day when I think it sunk in where you had taken some positions, but really got focused on position size. And there was a day when the markets kind of gapped against you, and it was like you woke up and it's like, oh gosh, I really wasn't that stressed because of my position sizing. And I remember a couple of aha moments like that where things started coming together, or when you would recognize some special situations in the market and willing to be more aggressive, which obviously with a smaller account is like, okay, that's really important to know when it's like, okay, when is this something that I could actually step up a little bit more and be a little bit more aggressive versus when is it a time to actually kind of sit back and, stick with the one lot and just kind of getting some income. And so I think that's the stuff like that it's hard to, I know it's hard for me to quantify that, position sizing. Like I'm always saying, like, look, it's the idea that every trade should be the same position size is ridiculous. It's it's going to depend on what is the shape of the market. Are the S&Ps just firing off a squeeze, or are they in the middle of no man's land right now? That's going to impact your position size. Do you have any what you call oomph into the trade? Is that that's going to impact your position size? And so I think that's some of the stuff where I know when I would talk about it, it'd be a little bit more esoteric, but you were able to kind of pinpoint and say, this is exactly what I'm looking for to take, a bigger position size.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've really had to narrow down the focus because I'm not able to take every trade, and I really just want to focus on a couple trades that I know I really want to nail it. So that's just what I've tried to do, and I've tried to create a rule set that enables me to pick out those trades in a very strategic manner. So D wants to know, do you explain alternative ways of entering before the squeeze fires like the ready aim fire? I was wondering since I don't have the indicator. Yes, absolutely. So I am going to also explain my ideal entry points with the squeeze. The ready aim fire is definitely a bonus. Like, hey, this is happening right now. But absolutely, I will explain that if you do not have the ready aim fire. The commissions on the platform I use are about $1.25 a contract with Thinkorswim. Will I discuss options pricing? Absolutely. So we are definitely going to go through that. We're definitely going to go through that in the class. Is this a good option to buy? Is it not? Why? The reasons? How do you pick it out? All of those things. Do you trade through earnings? If yes, which option strategy do you implement? So yes, Wally, actually, so I do the closing session in the trading room 4 days a week. And I do trade through earnings, but this particular 5-star strategy does not go through earnings. This is not a holding through earnings strategy. A lot of the times I will use it for a run up into earnings. But I do have different and specific strategies that I use through earnings, but this is not a one that we want to hold through earnings. Can you please talk more about the mentorship live stream and how it works? Yeah, so basically, we have a mentorship, we have an event where we have about 50 or so traders come out down to Austin with us, and we have about 3 days where we spend with those people. Usually the first day, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, but usually the first day we spend teaching, and then the next 2 days after that are typically live trading. So if you're not able to come and attend in person, you're able to watch that through the live stream. So instead of being there, you're just going to have a close up video, which is really the next best thing. I personally, I'm very social, so I love going to stuff like that. Talking to everyone, meeting everyone, but it's really kind of like a combination of classes all put into one. Typically in the trading room, we all have our own sessions. But during the mentorship, we collaborate. So, for example, there will be a session with John, Henry, and Carolyn together for 2 or 3 hours where they're live trading for everyone at the mentorship. And John will say, "Hey, I'm going to do this crazy trade," and Carolyn will say, "No, I'm going to crack you with the whip," and Henry will say, "Hey, this is the conservative way I'm going to do it." And it's really entertaining. And so if you can't make it live, the live stream, you can watch that on video. So yeah, so Austin event. So when you sign up for the Austin event, you are signing up for the actual event, but the hotel stay, yes, and the travel would be your responsibility. So me, when I didn't have any money, I charged it. I thought it was really smart, but I did end up paying it off with my trading income 6 months later. So that was that was funny. How many trades do I typically have on at the same time? So right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 on right now. Typically I have about a 7 out of 10 ratio going on. 8 out of 10 if I'm lucky. So right now I'm down on Boeing and Nvidia, but everything else I'm up on for the most part. TD Ameritrade, eBay, 5, Lulu, Oracle, and Wing. So what is the cost to add the Ready and Fire to the strategy class? So you're saying without the live trading? So these are the 4 available packages. If you have an additional question, yeah, okay. So if you wanted to do just the strategy with the Ready and Fire, definitely contact support. So if you can do support at simpleroptions.com, simplertrading.com, or just call the phone number right here, that would be the best option for you. The Ready and Fire. So I literally argued to have this included. And the Ready and Fire is on the site, I think, for $597. So I really, really wanted it included in a version of the class because it was so important to me. So this is like a $300 discount from what you're going to get on the site, of course, because you're including this. I'm not sure if you can get a package with just this and the Ready and Fire, but you can definitely call support and ask. Yeah. So, I mean, if you're going to pay $297 plus $597, that's, you're only paying $200 more for that. I don't know. You can do the math, but I really wanted it to be a possibility for you guys to have a package where that was available. So, Danielle, when you first started, what courses did you first take and what books did you read? Will you discuss a strategy plan for someone who wants to go from a beginner to where you are today? Yeah, and I mean, that's exactly what I want to discuss in the class, like literally step by step. This is how I do my research. This is how I identify a trend. This is how I identify a squeeze. This is how I trade it, and this is how I manage my risk. So that is absolutely the goal of the class. As far as books, I love Carolyn's book. You can find Carolyn Boroden on Amazon. Find Carolyn Boroden on Amazon. I love John's book, of course. How long does the Ready Aim Fire last? There's not a monthly charge at all. No, this is a one-time buy. How come you were down on NVIDIA? Because I got into this trade maybe a week or two ago. So, and it's dipped a little bit since my entry. I'm down $80. So, I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it is still slightly down. So, but just as far as ratios go, when you first started, how did you deal with losing trades over and over again? Good God. I went to work out at the gym a lot. Probably drank too much wine. I cried. It was really hard. I'm an emotional person. I've had to work very, very hard to keep emotion out of my trading, which was part of, yeah, my dad says, lots of crying.
It's really like there's funny. No crying in baseball.
It was hard for me. Usually I had to not look, so close my platform, take my son, go do something else, focus on something else, come back, try to start a new day, wipe the slate free. That worked well for me. It's hard when you're losing, but I really tried to focus on, okay, how can I fix this? So part of John's advice was always, you need to journal, you need to screenshot, you need to go back and you need to see why you're losing money. Are you losing money because you're emotional? Are you losing money because your setup sucks? Are you losing money? So that was what I did. You have to take that emotional aspect out of it, think logically. You have to go back and you have to journal. My dad can attest. I printed off papers and paper. I drove him crazy. I was like, I promise I'll pay for the ink and the printer. And then I never did, of course. But I printed off chart after chart, of course, on black backgrounds. And, you know, once you can, I mean, I have photos of the piles of paper that I printed everywhere. And you just have to look at it and you just have to say, why am I losing money? Did I do this wrong? Do I need more education? And then once you can pinpoint that issue and you can work toward a solution, then, you know, you can take yourself out of that emotional state and say, okay, I know how to fix this. So that's what you really have to do when you're at that state. And yeah, Daryl says, I'm not lying. He saw I was unpacking my boxes the other day and I have literally printed off classes, piles of them that I went to FedEx and I got binders around them. So Danielle, does this strategy involve combo positions or straight call and put buying? So for this class, I'm really just going to focus on call and put buying and working on the trend, because once you can recognize a trend, once you can recognize a squeeze, once you know this is a high probability chart, you can trade it in any way you want. The easiest way to do it, the quickest way, the most aggressive way is with long calls. But once you got that down, you can trade it with a butterfly. You can trade it with an unbalanced fly. You can trade it with a put spread. It does not matter. So this class, my first class, I'm going to focus on the long calls. But really the focus is on becoming a pro on identifying the setup. And then after that, I mean, the world's your oyster. So additionally, the long calls, it's going to be the highest probability of profit. So, oh, exactly, Nil. Yeah, NVIDIA is going to come back. Don't worry. It's got my reversal pattern on it. So does it matter what trading platform one uses? So I use Thinkorswim. I do think it's easier to follow using the same platform that I use, but Thinkorswim you can also download completely for free. So if you wanted to do that, that's an option for you. I don't think it's an issue using E-Trade at all. It kind of just depends how versed you are. It depends how versed you are with your, trading platform. And definitely email Daryl. He's our amazing, amazing tech IT manager, and he can absolutely help you out with that. So, how long am I typically in a trade? So, the team trade that I did last week, I was only in for like 2 days. This is the power of the ready and fire right here. So normally I'm in my trades about a week or so. Once it gets to 2 weeks, it's kind of dragging on me a little bit. But this trade that I got in you see that ready and fire right there? Boom. Got in right before it was up 7%, and that was 1, 2, 3 days and out. So I do overnight trades with earnings a lot, but with this specific 5-star strategy, I go, 2, 3, 5 days, 2 weeks at the max. Average win rate, I go between about 30% on my option to about 100%. And then my stop loss is a max of 50% stop loss, which I really don't hit that very often because with the entry and exit points I use, it's pretty rare that I get a 50% loss. I definitely do take losses, but 50% is about my max stop loss point, and the average win rate is going to be between 30, 100% on the trade. Yeah, that's totally fine. So if you want to take the strategy class first and then decide about the live trading, we will have an upgrade option. So do you use weekly options since you're only in a few weeks? Absolutely. Since I can't come to Austin for a few days, I need to do this from the house. Can I do live trade over a live webinar? So what do you mean? Are you talking about the mentorship? Because the class is definitely just online. The option that is for the mentorship, that is going to be the in-person one. So this one, we have 2 options. We have a live stream, and then we also have a in-person mentorship. This package right here is just the live stream. So you would not need to come to Austin for that. If you wanted to come to Austin for the in-person mentorship, that's also an option, I believe. How do you manage risk in a trade entry done before earnings and the trade goes south due to earnings announcement against your trade? So earnings are going to be completely different than this 5-star strategy. So with earnings, you have to absolutely position size for your max loss. Whereas with these 5-star setups, I'm typically position sizing for about a 50% absolute max stop loss. Yeah, Thomas, that's tough. So you talked about 50% stop loss. Is that the end of day or just any time it hits, do you cut it loose? It is a struggle. So, and that's part of what we get into with the technical analysis. You absolutely have to take into account the setup, the chart pattern, as well as that 50% stop loss. So yeah. All right. Well, I really appreciate everyone being here today. I think that I got to most of the questions. If I did not get to your question, you can definitely contact support or contact me. I will absolutely teach you in my class. I will absolutely teach you where to set your stop loss in Thinkorswim. So if you're late to the show, just make sure you catch the recording. Leo is great. He is with my girlfriend Tammy tonight, and I know she's taking good care of him. So
I saw Leo running around on the street outside, so I don't know what's going on there. But
I wouldn't be surprised. He's normally a hellion when we're trying to do webinars around here. So Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being here today. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Well, let us know, please, if you have any questions. And, I'm also available too if you're not sure. Danielle at simplertrading.com. Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Have a great night.
Yep. Have a good
And
night, everyone.
hope to see you soon.
Yeah, and great work, Danielle. And yeah, class will be awesome. You guys have a good night. And
Woohoo.
welcome aboard, Danielle, from the student becomes the master. So it should be a great class on Saturday.
Ciao.
Have a good one.